One of the most important steps to stopping the cycle of falling for the wrong person is to truly understand your own patterns. This means stepping back and honestly examining the types of people you consistently find yourself attracted to. And more importantly, why. Many of us don't realize that we're often repeating the same relationship mistakes over and over because of unconscious patterns rooted deep within us. Take a moment to reflect on your past relationships. Was there a common type of person you kept dating? Maybe it was someone emotionally unavailable, someone who was inconsistent, or even someone who treated you poorly. The key is not to judge yourself for this, but to become curious. What is it about these types of people that draws you in repeatedly? The answer usually lies not in who they are on the surface, but in what they represent to you internally. For example, you might be attracted to emotionally unavailable partners because deep down, you are used to not having your emotional needs fully met. This could stem from childhood experiences or previous relationships where you learned that love comes with distance or unpredictability. Your brain then interprets these patterns as normal or safe, even if they cause you pain. This is why sometimes we are drawn to the very people who don't treat us well. It's familiar territory, and familiarity feels safe, even if it's unhealthy. Understanding your patterns also means recognizing the emotional triggers that make you more vulnerable to falling for the wrong person. Maybe you have a strong desire to be needed or to feel special. And this can make you overlook red flags or settle for less than you deserve. Perhaps you've experienced abandonment or rejection before, so you hold on to anyone who shows even a little bit of attention, fearing you won't find love otherwise. These emotional gaps create openings for the wrong person to step in. Becoming aware of these patterns isn't about blaming yourself or feeling stuck. Instead, it's about gaining insight so you can take control. When you understand why you fall for certain people, you can start to question those attractions. You can pause before jumping in and ask yourself, is this person really right for me? Or am I just repeating a familiar story? This awareness creates a new space for choice, where before you might have acted on autopilot. The process of uncovering your patterns can be uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly liberating. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. You see the furniture, the obstacles, and the way out. Once you're aware, you can begin to make different decisions, ones that align with the love and respect you truly deserve. In practical terms, this means taking time after each relationship or even during dating to reflect on what worked, what didn't, and how you felt. Journaling, talking to trusted friends or a coach, or even therapy can help you map out these patterns and start to rewrite your love story. When you commit to understanding yourself at this level, you lay the foundation to stop falling for the wrong people and start attracting the right ones. Our emotional needs play a huge role in why we fall for the wrong person, and most of the time, we're not even fully aware of these needs or how they influence our choices. Every human being has fundamental emotional needs, things like feeling loved, accepted, secure, and valued. When these needs aren't met early on, whether in childhood or past relationships, we can carry those unmet needs into our adult romantic lives without realizing it. Imagine you grew up in an environment where affection was rare or conditional, or where you didn't feel fully seen or heard. That lack creates a kind of emotional hunger that never truly goes away. So when you start dating, your brain unconsciously searches for someone who can fill that gap, even if that person isn't the healthiest match. You might find yourself attracted to someone who is inconsistent or emotionally unavailable because the push and pull feels familiar to you. It mimics the emotional environment you once experienced, so your mind mistakenly believes this is what love looks like. What happens next is that you begin to focus on what this person might give you emotionally, rather than who they actually are as a partner. You're chasing a feeling, validation, reassurance, or acceptance, rather than a genuine, balanced relationship. This is why people often stay in relationships where they're not truly respected or valued, because those relationships are temporarily satisfying an emotional need, even if they're harmful in the long run. Understanding the role of emotional needs helps us see that falling for the wrong person isn't just about attraction or chemistry. It's about an internal search for healing or wholeness. This means that before we can build healthy relationships with others, we need to start addressing those needs within ourselves. When you recognize what you've been missing emotionally, you can begin to find healthier ways to meet those needs through self-care, setting boundaries, or seeking support from trusted friends or professionals. This process isn't about blaming your past or your parents. It's about becoming aware that the emotional wounds you carry influence your relationship choices. The good news is that awareness is powerful because it gives you a chance to change the story. When you start nurturing yourself and meeting your own emotional needs, you won't rely on others to fill the gaps that only you can fill. That's why emotional self-awareness is so important. When you understand your needs clearly, you stop settling for scraps of attention or affection from the wrong person. Instead, you set a higher standard for yourself and what you're willing to accept. You become empowered to wait for someone who can actually meet you where you are emotionally, not someone who triggers old wounds or keeps you in a cycle of hurt. At the end of the day, falling for the wrong person is often a signal that your emotional needs haven't been fully acknowledged or met. By learning to honor and fulfill these needs yourself, you build a foundation of self-love and security. And when that foundation is strong, you'll naturally attract healthier, more fulfilling relationships that support your growth, rather than hold you back. One of the most powerful reasons we fall for the wrong person is because we are drawn to what feels familiar, even if that familiarity causes us pain. Our brains are wired to seek comfort and predictability, and familiarity offers exactly that. When you think about it, this is why people sometimes stay stuck in patterns of unhealthy relationships. It's not that they enjoy the hurt, but because the dynamics feel known and known feels safe. From childhood, we form ideas about what relationships look like based on the environment we grew up in. If your experience was filled with conflict, inconsistency, or emotional distance, your subconscious mind learned to accept those things as normal. So when you meet someone who exhibits similar traits, even if they're not good for you, your brain interprets that as a safe choice because it's what you expect. This doesn't mean you want to be hurt. It means your brain is prioritizing familiarity over something new and uncertain. This attraction to the familiar can create a paradox where you're simultaneously longing for a healthy, loving connection, but gravitating toward people who don't provide that. It's like your heart and your mind are in conflict. The heart yearns for love, but the mind defaults to patterns rooted in the past. The challenge is that familiarity often masks itself. You might excuse bad behavior or ignore red flags because it feels like what relationships are supposed to be. But the truth is, love should feel safe, supportive, and uplifting, not confusing or draining. Breaking this cycle starts with awareness and courage. Awareness helps you recognize when you're repeating familiar patterns, and courage gives you the strength to try something different. You have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and risk the unknown, even though it feels scary at first. Change isn't easy because the brain resists uncertainty, but it's essential for growth. It also means learning to differentiate between familiarity and healthy connection. Just because something feels known doesn't mean it's good for you. Sometimes the right person might feel unfamiliar or challenge your previous experiences of love. That discomfort is actually a sign that you're expanding beyond your old pattern. To do this effectively, you can start by reflecting on what kind of emotional environment you're drawn to and how it relates to your upbringing or past relationships. Journaling, therapy, or deep conversations with trusted friends can help you uncover these subconscious pulls. Once you understand where your attraction to familiarity comes from, you can consciously choose to break those patterns. Remember, choosing what's unfamiliar doesn't mean you settle for less. It means you open yourself up to the possibility of something better, something that supports your growth and honors your worth. So, if you keep falling for the wrong person, ask yourself, is this really about who they are, or is it about what's familiar to me? When you start to answer that honestly, you create the space for true, healthy love to enter your life. One of the biggest reasons we fall for the wrong person is because we confuse red flags with hope. Red flags are warning signs, those early indicators that something isn't quite right in a relationship, but often we ignore them or convince ourselves that they're just temporary issues. or that our love can change the other person. This mindset can keep us trapped in unhealthy patterns longer than we should be. When you meet someone new, it's easy to get swept up in excitement and potential. You focus on all the things that could be. The possibility that this person will grow into someone better, that they're just going through a rough patch, or that you're the one who can fix their flaws. This hope is powerful because it offers a narrative where love conquers all. But the danger is that hope blinds you to the reality right in front of you. A red flag might be consistent disrespect, lack of communication, dishonesty, or emotional unavailability. These aren't small, fixable issues. They are patterns that often reveal deeper problems. When you overlook them, you're essentially telling yourself that your feelings or your hopes are more important than your well-being. That's why it's so important to learn how to identify red flags clearly and to trust your instincts. Hope, while beautiful, can become a trap when it causes you to dismiss your own boundaries or ignore what your gut is telling you. The problem isn't wanting to believe in love or wanting to give someone a chance. It's when that hope overrides your self-respect and common sense. You deserve someone who shows you consistent respect and care from the start, not someone you have to change or wait on. Part of the challenge is that red flags can sometimes feel subtle or confusing, especially if you've experienced trauma or abandonment. Your desire for connection may cause you to rationalize behaviors that others would immediately recognize as unhealthy. This is why emotional clarity is so critical. It allows you to see the difference between genuine growth and empty promises. Learning to separate red flags from hope also means developing patience and self-awareness. If something feels off early on, pay attention. Don't rush to make excuses. Ask yourself if the person's actions align with their words. Are they consistently showing up in ways that build trust? If not, it's time to step back. You might worry that walking away means losing love or missing out on happiness. But in reality, respecting red flags protects you from bigger heartbreak down the road. When you honor those warning signs, you're making space for a partner who truly matches your values and treats you well. Ultimately, recognizing the difference between red flags and hope is an act of self-love. It's about prioritizing your emotional health and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. Remember, love should never hurt or confuse you. It should feel safe, supportive, and empowering. So next time you catch yourself making excuses for someone's bad behavior, pause and ask, am I seeing a red flag or am I holding on to hope? That moment of clarity can save you from falling for the wrong person again and bring you closer to the love you truly deserve. At the heart of why we keep falling for the wrong person lies a simple but powerful truth. Your self-worth shapes everything about the relationships you attract. When you don't fully believe in your own value, it's almost impossible to expect or accept the kind of love that truly honors you. Self-worth isn't just about feeling good about yourself. It's about knowing deep down that you deserve respect, kindness, and a partner who meets you with honesty and care. Many people confuse self-worth with external validation. How others treat you, how many people like you, or even how much attention you get. But real self-worth comes from within. It's a quiet confidence that says, I am enough just as I am, and I deserve someone who sees that. When you have this foundation, you don't settle for less because you're not afraid to be alone or to wait for the right person. On the flip side, if you struggle with low self-worth, you might find yourself tolerating behaviors that chip away at your confidence, like disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional unavailability, because you don't believe you deserve better. This creates a cycle where you attract people who reflect that lack of belief in you. Your energy, your boundaries, and your expectations all signal to others how you allow yourself to be treated. Understanding that your self-worth influences your relationship choices is liberating because it means the power to change lies with you. When you start to invest in yourself, through self-care, setting boundaries and affirming your value, you shift the way you show up in relationships. You become someone who naturally attracts respect and love simply because you embody those qualities first. Building self-worth is a process, and it often requires looking at the stories you tell yourself. Maybe you grew up hearing messages that you weren't good enough or that your needs didn't matter. These beliefs can become invisible barriers to healthy love. Replacing them with empowering beliefs, like I am worthy of love, and I deserve happiness creates a new internal environment that supports better choices. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect or never make mistakes. True self-worth is about accepting yourself fully, flaws and all, and understanding that your value isn't conditional. When you embrace this, you stop chasing people who don't respect you or treat you well because you know you deserve better. Having a strong sense of self-worth also means you're less likely to compromise your boundaries just to keep someone around. You become clear on what's non-negotiable and have the courage to walk away if those needs aren't met. This clarity protects your heart and ensures you don't repeat patterns that don't serve you. Ultimately, your self-worth sets the tone for every relationship you have. When you believe in your value, you create a magnetic energy that draws in the right kind of love, one that uplifts, supports, and respects you. So, if you find yourself falling for the wrong person, start by building your foundation of self-worth, because the love you deserve begins with the love you give yourself. Timing and readiness are often overlooked but crucial factors in why we fall for the wrong person. Even if someone seems great on paper or sparks initial chemistry, if the timing isn't right in your life, it can lead to disappointment, confusion, and pain. Understanding where you are emotionally and mentally before entering into a relationship is just as important as who you choose to date. When you're not truly ready for a relationship, whether because you're healing from past wounds, dealing with personal challenges, or still figuring out what you want, your ability to make clear, grounded choices diminishes. This can lead to settling for people who don't meet your needs or rushing into connections that aren't built on a solid foundation. Sometimes, we confuse being lonely or feeling societal pressure to be in a relationship with being ready for one. These feelings can push us to latch on to whoever shows interest, without pausing to consider if this person aligns with our values, goals, and emotional health. This kind of rushed attachment often leads to falling for the wrong person because the relationship fills a temporary gap rather than fulfilling a genuine connection. Being ready means more than just wanting to be with someone. It means you've done the inner work to understand yourself, your boundaries, and your emotional availability. It means you're in a place where you can give love freely without needing to fix or rescue anyone else. When you're ready, you attract people who are similarly grounded and capable of building a healthy partnership. Another aspect of timing is recognizing when the other person is also ready. Sometimes two people come together at different stages of life, and this mismatch causes tension and heartbreak. If one person is fully committed and the other is hesitant or emotionally closed off, the relationship is unlikely to thrive. It's important to be honest with yourself and your partner about where you both stand. The influence of timing also explains why sometimes, despite all the right ingredients, relationships don't work out. It's not always about compatibility, but about whether the timing aligns for both individuals to grow together. When the timing isn't right, even the healthiest people can make choices that lead to pain. So how do you know if you're ready? It starts with self-reflection and patience. Ask yourself, am I seeking this relationship to fill a void, or because I genuinely want to share my life with someone? Have I healed from past hurts enough to be present with someone new? Do I feel secure and confident in who I am on my own? These questions help gauge your readiness. If the answer is no or maybe, that's okay. Being patient with yourself and your journey is a sign of strength, not weakness. It means you're committed to building a foundation that supports lasting love rather than quick fixes. In summary, the right timing and readiness set the stage for healthy relationships. When you honor your own pace and emotional state, you're less likely to fall for the wrong person. Instead, you create space for love that's not just passionate, but also stable, supportive, and truly fulfilling. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood but powerful tools in creating healthy relationships and stopping the cycle of falling for the wrong person. They're not about being rigid or pushing people away. Instead, boundaries are about defining and communicating what you will and won't accept in how you are treated. When you don't have clear boundaries, it's easy for others to take advantage of your kindness, for confusion to set in, and for unhealthy dynamics to develop. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that if they love someone enough, they should tolerate bad behavior or overlook red flags. But the truth is, Love without boundaries isn't love. It's codependency or self-sacrifice. Boundaries protect your emotional well-being and self-respect, and they help you create relationships where both partners feel safe and valued. Setting boundaries starts with knowing yourself deeply, what you need, what makes you uncomfortable, and what you absolutely cannot compromise on. This self-awareness allows you to communicate clearly and confidently about your limits. When you express your boundaries, you're teaching others how to treat you. If someone respects those boundaries, it's a sign of their respect for you and the potential for a healthy relationship. If they push against or ignore your boundaries, that's a warning sign that they don't value you the way you deserve. It's important to remember that boundaries are not about controlling the other person. They're about controlling what you allow into your life. You have the power to say yes or no, to step back or walk away. This empowerment is key to breaking patterns of falling for the wrong person, because it shifts the control back to you. Instead of reacting to someone else's actions or emotions, you choose what you will accept, and you protect your heart from harm. Another crucial part of boundaries is consistency. Setting a boundary once but not enforcing it sends mixed messages. It's like putting up a fence but leaving the gate wide open. Consistent boundaries create safety not just for you but for your partner as well, because everyone knows what to expect. This clarity builds trust and respect over time. Learning to set and maintain boundaries also involves overcoming fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being alone, or fear of conflict. These fears can make you hesitate to stand up for yourself. But the reality is that healthy boundaries attract healthy relationships. When you honor your own needs, you attract partners who do the same. People who don't respect your boundaries usually aren't right for you anyway. In practice, boundaries might mean saying no to things that drain you, asking for the respect you deserve, or walking away from relationships that don't align with your values. It's about protecting your emotional energy and making choices that serve your growth and happiness. Ultimately, boundaries are an act of self-love. They're a declaration that you deserve to be treated with kindness, respect, and honesty. When you build the habit of clear boundaries, you break free from the cycle of falling for the wrong person and open the door to relationships that are supportive, fulfilling, and truly loving. Emotional patterns play a huge role in why we keep falling for the wrong person. And understanding these patterns is essential if you want to break free and find healthier love. These patterns are often rooted deep in our past experiences, whether from childhood, previous relationships, or even cultural and familial messages about what love should look like. Without awareness, these emotional habits operate on autopilot, leading us to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. For example, if you grew up in an environment where love was conditional or inconsistent, you might unconsciously seek out partners who reflect those dynamics. You might find yourself attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable or who keep you on edge because it feels familiar and, oddly enough, safe. Your brain clings to what it knows, even if it causes pain, because unfamiliar emotional experiences feel risky and uncertain. Healing these emotional patterns starts with recognizing them honestly. It requires looking at your relationship history and seeing where you might have been drawn to certain types of people or behaviors repeatedly. This isn't about blaming yourself or others. It's about gaining clarity and compassion for why you make the choices you do. Once you understand these patterns, you can start to consciously choose differently. Infatuation can appear quickly and intensely, which is why it's easy to confuse the two if you don't give yourself space to really get to know the person. It's also helpful to check in with yourself and ask if your feelings are based on who this person truly is or on your hopes and needs. Are you attracted to the person's authentic self or an idealized version you've created? Being honest about this can save you from investing in relationships that won't fulfill you in the long run. Sometimes, infatuation can evolve into genuine connection if both people are willing to show up authentically and invest in building trust. But it's important not to mistake the initial rush for something deeper too soon. Taking the time to observe, communicate, and reflect helps you make wiser choices. Ultimately, learning to differentiate genuine connection from infatuation protects your heart and leads to more fulfilling relationships. When you seek and recognize true connection, You avoid falling for the wrong person, and instead open yourself up to the kind of love that lasts. Taking responsibility for your role in relationships is a crucial step toward breaking the cycle of falling for the wrong person. It's easy to blame others for failed relationships or to believe that you're simply unlucky in love, but the truth is that every relationship is a two-way street. Reflecting on your own patterns, choices, and behaviors allows you to grow and make better decisions moving forward. When you take responsibility, you're not saying it's your fault that someone treated you poorly or that things didn't work out. Instead, you're acknowledging that you have power over how you respond to situations, what boundaries you set, and who you allow into your life. This mindset shifts you from being a passive victim to an active participant in your love life. One common pattern people fall into is repeating the same types of relationships because they haven't examined their own role in attracting those dynamics. Maybe you unconsciously seek validation from people who aren't emotionally available or tolerate disrespect because you fear being alone. Recognizing these patterns is empowering because it opens the door to change. Taking responsibility also means learning from past experiences without harsh self-judgment. Instead of beating yourself up for mistakes, use them as lessons to understand what didn't serve you and how you can do things differently. This approach fosters self-compassion and encourages growth rather than shame, which often keeps people stuck. Another important aspect is being honest with yourself about what you want and need in a relationship. Sometimes people settle because they haven't clearly defined their values, or because they're afraid to ask for what they deserve. When you take responsibility, you clarify your standards and communicate them confidently, which helps attract partners who align with your vision. It also involves being accountable for your emotional responses. For example, if you notice that you react with jealousy, insecurity, or anxiety, rather than blaming your partner, take a moment to reflect on what those feelings mean for you personally. Addressing your emotional triggers and healing internal wounds can improve how you engage in relationships. Taking responsibility encourages you to be proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for someone else to change, or for the right person to come along, you focus on becoming the person who can create and sustain a healthy relationship. This might include developing better communication skills, setting boundaries, or working on self-love. Ultimately, owning your part in relationships empowers you to break free from old cycles and create new patterns based on respect, honesty, and genuine connection. When you take responsibility, you reclaim control over your love life and open yourself to the possibility of finding the right person. Not because you're lucky, but because you're ready. At the end of the day, falling for the wrong person is not about bad luck or fate. It's about patterns, choices, and understanding yourself deeply. When you learn to recognize why you're attracted to certain people, set clear boundaries, heal your emotional wounds, and take responsibility for your part in relationships, you empower yourself to break free from the cycle.